Okay, so we'll first give an example of a integral domain. Okay, we'll give an example of an integral domain and an element which is irreducible but not prime. Okay, we'll give an example of an irreducible which is not prime. So the integral domain is z root 3. That's the integral z root minus 3. Okay, so if you look at show that so this is the element 1 plus square root of minus 3 is an irreducible in z root minus 3, okay, but not prime. See, algebraically you can simply think of square root of minus 3 as some solution to the polynomial x square plus 3. You can simply think of it as that. You need not worry about what this is. On some higher field such a solution exists. You don't have to worry. Above Q on some higher field such a solution exists. Don't worry about that part. Okay, that we don't cover in this course. We need to talk about field extensions for that. It is not actually that difficult to show it, but again there are certain intricate details to follow. Okay, so let's see. So first I want to show that this is an irreducible. So how do I show it's an irreducible? So suppose I can break it up. I have to show that one of them has to be a unit. Okay, so suppose there exist A and B in Z. So let me go with X and Y such that 1 plus square root of minus 3 is xy. Okay. We have proved that if n of x is a prime, then x is irreducible. Right? That's what we proved last time. If n of x, the other way is not true, and that's actually what you should have done first. Is you should have checked what is n of this. What is n of this? Can you see? Look at that n function. What is n of this? It is 4. Okay, so it's not prime, so you can't use that fact to prove that this is not irreducible. Okay, but the n function still helps you. You take the n function throughout. We have proved some nice properties of the n function, so you get n of the norm, if you want to call it, equals n of x. Right? We know that n of xy is n of x into n of y. So this gives us n of x times n of y. But what is n of this? It is 4. Okay, so we get n of x into n of y is 4. But 4 can be written as this need not be. Yeah. Now you have to check what happens here. So I should have written it in a slightly different way. Let us prove it by contradiction. So suppose 1 plus square root of minus 3 is not irreducible. Okay, this would mean that there exist x and y such that this is this, where what happened? Is this okay? Yeah. Suppose this is not irreducible. We want to prove it's irreducible, going by contradiction. So that means you would be able to find. That means it's reducible. Okay, it's not irreducible. It's not a unit or not 0. So therefore it is reducible. So therefore you can write it as xy, where x and y are both not units. Okay, where x and y are non-units. Now we know that x is a unit if and only if n of x is 1. Okay, we have proved that x is a unit if and only if n of x is 1. So since these are non-units, n of x and n of y cannot be 1. So what are the possibilities for n of x and n of y? These are both natural numbers, right? What are the possibilities? Yeah, they can only be 2. That's the only possible way, because if any of them is 4, the other one has to be 1, right, which will make that a unit. So the only possibility is 4 using factorization of natural numbers. Okay, so this will mean that n of x is equal to 2 and n of y is equal to 2. I'm not as n of x is not equal to 1 and n of y is also not equal to 1. Okay. Okay, but let's see whether there are actually any elements. Let's check for which elements have norm 1 in this integral domain. Let's check which elements actually have norm 1. Okay, so suppose x is, you can write x as a plus b times square root of 3. These are the elements of this integral domain, right? A plus b, where a and b are both in z. Then what would be n of x? It would be modulus of a square minus b square times minus 3, which is mod of a square plus 3b square. Okay. Now you see, can this ever be equal to 2? You check and see. If b is 0, then the square of nothing can give you 2. Right? 2 is not a square of no natural number can be 2. That is quite easy to show. If a is 0, then the number will have to be a multiple of 3. Multiple ways of showing that 3b square is never equal to 2. So therefore a and b both cannot be 0. Okay, a and b both cannot be 0, but if a and b are non-zero, this number is going to be greater than 3. Okay, so in either ways this can never be equal to 2, so we've got a contradiction. For any choice of a and b in z, this cannot be 2, but I've said that this is 2, right? So that's a contradiction. So this contradicts the assumption that this is not irreducible and therefore it's irreducible. Okay, so we have proved it's irreducible. We now need to show it's not a prime. So how do I show it is not a prime? To show it's not a prime, I will show that, yeah. So what is a prime? When is p a prime? If p has the property that when p divides xy, then p should either divide x or p should divide y. Okay, so if I can find some x and y so that p divides xy but does not divide x and does not divide y, that would mean that p is not a prime. Okay, so I have to find out what this x is, what this this is. So the choice actually is the same as that. So what you can do is you take x to be, okay, I am factoring 4. Okay, so the way you can factor 4 is 1 plus square root of minus 3. Anyone knows? Into 1 minus square root of minus 3, right? Because the conjugate that will give you 4. Okay, so therefore yeah, so yeah, this is fine. So therefore my, let's go with a and b, I don't know. Okay, x and y is fine. So xy is 4. Okay, 1 square plus mod of 1 square minus 3, which is 4. Okay, so what I have seen here, what I can see here is that x, that is 1 plus square root of minus 3, divides 4. Okay, x divides 4, but I know that 4 can be written as 2 times 2, So if x was a prime, then x should divide 2, and x should divide 2. It should either divide 2 or 2, right? So let me say let f possible. Okay, I want to show that x is not a prime, so I'll assume it's a prime and get a contradiction. So, okay, let f possible, x is a prime. Okay, so therefore what would happen, since x is a prime, x would have to divide 2. This is product of 2, this thing. This works, this product is fine. Huh? But what does this mean? X divides 2 means what? There is some integer z, it's not integer, there is some element in this ring z. This would mean that there exists some z equals a plus b root minus 3. Such that 2 can be written as x times z. Okay, but this would mean that we can again use our n function to make our work easy. Okay, so look at n of 2. What would be n of 2? What is n of 2? 4. Okay, so this would give us, you can, I don't know whether there is a, you can actually just multiply also and get a contradiction, but let's do it with the n function. Seems to me the easiest way. So therefore 4 would be equal to n of 2. N of 2 by definition is 4, okay, mod of 2 square plus 0, 4. So this would be n of x times n of z. Okay, what is n of x? What is n of x? 4, and n of z, that's the, should I have done something else? Plus 3b square is 1, so that will mean that a is either plus or minus 1. Okay, I mean you could do this. Anyway, you can actually just expand this and see. Okay, so n of z into n of z. So this would mean that n of z is 1. Okay, but what is n of z? It is a square plus 3b square equals 1. Okay, now you ask yourself, for what integer choice of a and b can this be 1? Right, because the moment b is non-zero, this is going to exceed 3. So that's not possible. So b has to be 0. And once b is 0, a squared, the only integers whose square is 1 is plus and minus 1. So this would mean that a is equal to plus or minus 1 and b is equal to 0, and therefore z should be either plus or minus 1. Okay, but if z is plus or minus 1, you substitute here, it means that 2 is plus or minus x, right? And that's not true. Okay, 2 cannot be plus or minus x. Is that okay? If z is plus or minus 1, you substitute x in that place, right? So therefore 2 would be equal to plus or minus 1 plus root of minus 3, which is not possible. Okay, this is not possible. And since this is not possible, the assumption that x is not a prime, x is a prime is false, and therefore x is not a prime. Okay, so you could have even just expanded here and looked, you would still get it that way. Okay, so we have got an example of a prime, we've got an example of a irreducible which is not a prime. Okay, so keep this ring in mind. It's an example of something, we'll I'll tell you what it is later. So definitely this is not a PID for sure. Can you tell me why? This is definitely not a PID. Can you tell me why? Yeah? It is not a? So? Yeah? Talk a little louder. Exactly. So we have proved last time that in PIDs, irreducibles and primes are the same. An element is a prime if and only if it's irreducible. Okay, that doesn't take place in this ring because we've just found a irreducible which is not a prime. So therefore this cannot be a PID. Surely this is not a PID. Okay. So let us define what we mean by a unique factorization domain. Again, we are trying to borrow the idea of the fundamental theorem of arithmetic for this definition. Okay. So when do I say that an integral domain is a UFD? It is one if every element can be written as product of irreducibles, okay, and two, the expression as irreducibles is unique, okay, up to rearrangement and associates. Okay, that's always necessary to state. So what is a UFD? So an integral domain D is said to be a UFD if you have two conditions, that is any non-unit non-zero element can be written as product of irreducibles for any non-unit non-zero element A in D. There exist irreducibles P1, P2 up to PR in D, okay, such that A can be written as the product P1, P2 up to PR. That is the first condition. Second condition is, so that's like every integer can be written as product of primes. And the second condition is if, so this gives us uniqueness, if P1, P2 up to PR and Q1, Q2 up to QS are irreducibles in D such that the product of P1, P2 up to PR is the same as the product of Q1, Q2 up to QS, okay, then what should happen? Okay, then, so this statement I always make a little lightly, but you have to at least understand what it is exactly. Then definitely the number of irreducibles should be the same, that is R should be equal to S. It's not possible to have different this thing. So then R should be equal to S, and by some rearrangement, okay, you can what do we mean by rearrangement? Again, actually rearrangement means that there is a bijection from this set of irreducibles to this set of irreducibles, which takes a prime to its associate. Okay, that's actually what you mean by rearrangement. I don't state it rigorously on purpose. So by some rearrangement, so there, okay, by some rearrangement, Pi and Qi, okay, we can rearrange Qi's. Let me write it. We can rearrange Qi's such that Pi and Qi are associates. Okay, that means one is a unit multiple of the other. So this is what you mean by a UFD. Any examples of UFDs? Examples of UFDs? Yeah. Z, right? That's the first example of a UFD, right? Is Z a UFD? Every integer we can write as product of primes, right? Again, if I this thing by the fundamental theorem in natural numbers, it can be shown by just taking the modulus across on both sides. You will be able to use, because the primes in Z are simply plus or minus the primes in N. So if you just take the modulus across, you can show the uniqueness also of representation. So Z is a UFD for sure. Anything else? ZX, right? We have shown that ZX is a UFD. Any other example we have? And up to now we don't have any other example, but we will slowly show that there is another important example of a UFD. Okay, so we have two examples. One is Z and the second one is ZX. Actually, I had told you that using the unique factorization of ZX, you can even show that QX can be uniquely factorized, because if you look at how what are the irreducibles of Q, they are simply the irreducibles in irreducible polynomials over Q are simply irreducible polynomials over Z times unit. So you can also show that QX is but there is another proof to show that QX is a PID. Any case, so we have some nice examples. One is Z and ZX. Okay, and there is another interesting thing in UFDs. Okay, another one interesting exercise in UFDs is that every irreducible in a UFD is a prime. Okay, every irreducible. So UFDs also has the same property like PIDs, that an element is a prime if and only if it is a irreducible. So D be UFD, then D is, then A belonging to D is a prime if and only if A is an irreducible. Okay, one direction of this proof is obvious, because we know that every prime is always an irreducible in any given integral domain. So that side is fine. We need to show that if A is an irreducible, then it is a prime. So suppose A is a irreducible. Okay. Yeah. Suppose A is an irreducible, we need to show it is a prime. So suppose A is an irreducible and B comma C belong to D such that A divides BC. Okay, we need to show it's a prime, so we need to show that either A divides B or A divides C. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay. So we can simply break B into its prime factorization. Okay, we can write B as some P1, P2 up to PR, and write Q and write C as Q1, Q2 up to QS, right? Because we are in a UFD, so we can do that. Okay. Now what happens? A divides P1, P2 up to PR into Q1, Q2 up to QS. But these are all irreducibles. If A divides a product of irreducibles, A should be an associate of one of them. Okay, if A divides a product of irreducibles, A should be an associate of one of them. we have proved this, I hope, in the last session. Let me just check. No. I think okay, this was not proved, but I'll tell you how the proof works after this. So if A divides a product of irreducibles, then A should be an associate of one of them. So this will mean that either we can find an I between 1 and R such that A and Pi are associates. Okay, but if A is an associate of Pi, that means A will divide Pi. Of course, or we can find a J such that A is an associate of Qj. But without loss of generality, we could say that it's here. Okay, so if A is an associate of Pi, okay, that means A will divide Pi. Associates divide each other, very obviously, right? So, but if A divides Pi, then A will have to divide B, because Pi divides B. Okay, and therefore we have proved our statement. No. A divides a product of irreducibles, which means that A should be an associate of one of them. Either it will be an associate of one of the Pi's, that means A can be written as some U times Pi, right? But if A can be written as U times Pi, A divides, associate of this. I'm going to write it in the other way, that's not a problem, I suppose. What have I done? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so which side should I write it? Yeah, I think we'll put it here. Okay, now multiply the rest of the primes here. What you will get? So A times P1, Pi minus 1, Pi plus 1 up to Pr. This will be U times. If I multiply the rest of these primes here, I'll get A times something is U times B, or I could have taken this U on this side also, since it's a unit. The inverse taking. Okay, so I'll get B is A times some element in D, that means A divides B. Okay, quite easy to see. So A will be an associate of one of these. That's the only thing that I need to show, that A is an associate of one of these. So that we can prove. So therefore A divides B in that case. Okay, so if A is an associate of one of the Pi's, A will divide B, and if A is an associate of one of the Qj's, then A will divide C. That would work. Okay, how do I show that? That A should be an associate of one of these. See, do I need to use yeah, I think I need to. I don't know whether I require these to be primes. I need to check this. Thought I had I'd prove this in fx. There's a slight question on this guy. I mean, I'm not able to get how I would prove this. If this is an irreducible P1, P2, I can't say anything about P divides P1, P2 in general. Only if it's a prime I could say that. So okay, there's another way out. Irreducibles. Yeah, there's another way out. We need not go with doing that. We can actually, this will also prove that fact. Okay, so let's see. So this divides this will mean that, let us this thing. So this will mean that there exists some x in z such that a times x equals p1 up to pr into q1 up to qs. I think that is not possibly right in general. It might only work for UFDs. Okay. Now notice here, is this okay? A divides this, means I can write this as a product of A times some x. Okay. If x is a unit, then AX, okay, AX would be a prime, an irreducible. If x is a unit, AX would be an irreducible, which would mean that, see, this is equal to this, right? Actually, this would mean, because the number of primes appearing on this side, okay, the number of primes appearing on this side should be the same as the number of primes appearing on that side. So that would essentially mean that R plus S should be 1. That means either S should be 0 or R, one of them should be 0 and the other one should be 1. Okay. So say S is 0, that means S is 0 would mean what? C is a unit. Okay. But if C is a unit, A divides BC, therefore A would have to divide B also. If C is a unit and A divides BC, then A would have to divide B also. Okay. If S is non-zero, if S is, that would itself work. Okay. That is if X is a unit. If X is not a unit, you can break X into product of irreducibles. Okay. In fact, yeah, you can break X into a product of irreducibles. Say, I don't know. Say V1, V2 up to Vt. I don't know. So A times V1, V2 up to Vt, and this product. But what does the uniqueness of the prime factorization tell us? That by some rearrangements, all irreducibles here are associates of all irreducibles on that side. But A is an irreducible on the left. You're writing this out as product of. Okay. So if X is not a unit, there exist irreducibles. Say, what did I say? Say, let us go with tilde. P1 tilde, P2 tilde up to Pt tilde, such that X can be written as P1 tilde up to Pt tilde, Okay, so therefore what you have substituted there, you get A times P1 tilde up to Pt tilde equals P1, P2 up to Pr and Q1, Q2 up to Qs. But by the uniqueness of the factorization in UFDs, the second property tells us what? If P1, P2, Pr and Q1, Q2 up to Qs are all prime such that P1 into P2 up to Pr is equal to Q1, Q2 up to Qs, then R and S are equal, and there is some rearrangement such that Pi's are associates of Qis. That's what it tells us. Now we have irreducibles on this side and irreducibles on that side. Therefore, T plus 1 should be equal to R plus 1. That's irrelevant to us. But what is relevant is that A should either be an associate of one of these Pi's or it should be an associate of one of the Qj's. Okay, by the uniqueness of factorization, either A is equal to A is an associate of some Pi or A is an associate of some Qj. Without any loss of generality, we can assume that A is an associate of some Pi. Okay, without loss of generality, A is an associate of Pi. But if A is an associate of Pi, associates all divide each other. Okay, that means A divides Pi and also Pi divides, this is true, you can prove this in general, that if A divides B, B divides C, then A divides C. This can be proved in general. We also know that Pi divides B, right? So this will mean that A divides. That's what happens. Yeah. Actually, nothing changes if X is a unit. The only thing is that you will not have any primes. T would be 0. It would be a unit, anything. That gives you an idea of how you would prove this. I think what I stated earlier was possibly not true. That was true. That is only true in case of UFDs. It might not be true in general. I would have to check that. What is that? That is, if P divides P1, P2 up to Pr, then P and P should be an associate of one of them. That's exactly what I have proved here. You can see if P divides P1 in a UFD, if P, P1, P2 up to Pt are all irreducibles, so that P divides P1, P2 up to Pt, then P should be an associate of one of the irreducibles. I'll give that out to you. This is essentially what I have proved here. So, if D is a UFD and P, P1 up to Pr are irreducibles such that P divides P1 up to Pr, then there exists an I such that P and Pi are associates. So you can prove this. It's a copy of this proof. Okay. I have not stated what happens if X is a unit, but if X is a unit, you can simply you can make the argument on your own. Okay, so this you can prove, that is fine. Yeah, so yeah. In UFDs, this is definitely true. I am not so sure whether I would have to prove it if it is. I would have to prove if it is true in integral domains. I don't think it is. Let me show you. I think we have an example. You have in z root minus 3, right? In z root minus 3, this is definitely not true in general. That's what we have proved. That would essentially mean to show that it's this thing. Yeah, anyway. We know that 1 plus root minus 3 is an irreducible, right? This divides 4, but 2 and 2 are also both primes. These are primes in z root minus 3. Why? I mean, these are irreducibles in z root minus 3. Why? Okay, you can show that these are irreducibles in z root minus 3 because n of 2 is, if this is not a irreducible, it would mean that if 2 is not an irreducible, it will mean that I can break it down into x into y, where x and y are both not units, right? So I can write 2 as x times y, where x and y are both not units. Now check the n on both sides. You get n of 2 is 4, okay, and this side you will get n of x times n of y, but you just check this. This is some a1 square plus 3 times b1 square into a2 square plus 3 times b2 square. Okay, this is what you get. Now notice here that if a1 is 0, both cannot be 0 at the same time. Okay, that's for sure. If a1 is 0, then this natural number is going to be a multiple of 3, which is not possible. So a1 has to be non-zero. Also, yeah, no problem. So a1 is non-zero for sure. But the square of any integer, yeah, so slightly more this thing. Also we know that this is not equal to 1. Okay, we know that this is not equal to 1. What you need to show essentially is that each of these numbers is definitely greater than 2. Can you see why? In fact, each of these numbers is definitely greater than 2. See, a is definitely non-zero because of the argument which I just gave you. a1 and a2 are non-zero for sure. You can't say the same thing for b1 and b2. That's okay, because say suppose b1 was equal to 0. If b1 was 0, then you definitely know that a1 cannot be plus or minus 1. And if a1 cannot be plus or minus 1, the mod of a1 should be greater than or equal to 2. The mod of a1 should be greater than or equal to 2, which means that a1 square should be greater than or equal to a1 square should be greater than or equal to 4, and hence the product with something greater than or equal to 4 has to be strictly greater than 4. That's easy to see. Okay, you need to make certain arguments on this thing. For sure, a1 and a2 are non-zero. You take two conditions on b. If b1 is non-zero, then this is definitely greater than or equal to 4. That everyone can see, right? If b1 is non-zero, because both a1 square and b1 square are greater than 1, so therefore this is going to be greater than or equal to 4. If b is equal to 0, okay, if b is equal to 0, then since this is not a unit, x is not a unit, what should happen? A cannot be plus or minus 1. That means a1 should be greater than or equal to 2. So a1 square should be greater than or equal to 4. Okay, a1 square should be greater than or equal to 4, and hence this should be greater than or equal to 4. Simple. Okay, try to do it. It's easy to see. So therefore this will tell you that you can't write 2 as a product of 2 non-units, which means that 2 is also irreducible. That's it. Now we know that, so if this was this thing, then this would have to divide 2, but you go back and check the proof. We have shown that this does not divide 2. That's exactly what we have shown over there, that this does not divide 2. Okay. So that's easy to see. In fact, I should have realized it. So in general, this is not true, but in UFDs, this is definitely true. Okay. Okay. So the goal at hand in this section is to show that every PID is a UFD. Okay. So to show that every PID is a UFD, there is one very important theorem. There's one important property in PIDs. So you can see what it is. It's a very simple fact to prove, and this rings with such properties are called as I can't recollect now. Noetherian rings. Okay, rings with such properties are called Noetherian rings. So that is important, if I'm not mistaken, in commutative algebra. Okay, so let D be an integral domain, be a PID. Actually, this lemma, in my opinion, takes the place of induction for Z. To prove that Z is a UFD, if you go through the proof, the one important thing that you require is induction. You use induction everywhere there. So this kind of takes the place of induction in that. Anyway, so let D be a PID and IN, okay, this be a sequence of what is this? Ideals in D. Okay. Okay, such that for every n in n, okay, for every n in n, In is contained in In plus 1. So an increasing sequence of ideals. Okay, I'm making a mistake? Yeah. So if you have an increasing sequence of ideals, what this tells you is that at some stage the sequence has to start, it should be ultimately constant. Eventually all the ideals should be equal. Okay, you have an increasing sequence of ideals, at some stage all should be it should be constant. Okay, then it seems surprising, but as you will see, with a simple argument you can get this. Then there exists k in n such that let me say that In is equal to Ik for all n greater than or equal to k. So at some stage all are, after the kth stage, all the ideals after it are actually just equal to Ik. It doesn't keep increasing as you go. You can't have ideals which are strictly contained in each other, infinitely many ideals which are strictly contained in each other. That doesn't take place in this. And it's actually very easy to observe. What you do is you look at the union of all such ideals and prove that the union of all ideals only when they're contained in each other. This is not generally true. Union of two ideals need not be an ideal, but if you know that they are contained in each other, then it does become an ideal. It's actually easy to observe that the union of these is an ideal, because first you need to check that the union is an additive subgroup of the ring. And why does that happen? Because if you take two, A and B in the union, right, so A will be contained in some In and B will be contained in some Im, but this is an increasing sequence, so both of them will be in the bigger ideal. If both are in the bigger ideal, A minus B should be in the bigger ideal, and if A minus B is in the bigger ideal, A minus B should be in the union. That shows that it's an additive subgroup. Have you got it? Take two points A and B in the union. What do you mean by saying that an element is in the union? It should be in one of these. So, so A will be in some IN, B will be in some IM. If M is greater than N, then both A and B will be in IM, because this is strictly increasing. But IM is a ideal, so A minus B is in IM. But if A minus B is in IM, it is in the union. Okay, so therefore it's an additive subgroup. What about the other properties? So one is it's an additive subgroup. Two is you take an element in the union, say A, and take an element outside, say X. Okay, since A is in the union, A is in one of the ideals, right? Since A is in the union, A is in one of the ideals, say some IN. Therefore AX is in that ideal, right? That's the definition of an ideal. Since IN is an ideal, AX is in the ideal. But if AX is in that ideal, AX is in the union. So therefore the union would be an ideal. Okay, so I'll write it very fast. See, suppose A and B is in the union of IN. Let us take I to be the union of ions. Okay, what does this mean? I'll go with S and T. There exists some S and T in N. Let me go with such that A is in IS and B is in IT. Okay, you take M to be the maximum of S and T. If M is the maximum of S and T, right, what will happen? A and B will both be in IM, which will mean that A minus B is in IM, because this is an ideal, but this is contained inside I. So that proves it. If for any A and B here, subtract, that's here. So that's the additive subgroup. Okay. Next, you can take any A in I and X in D. This will mean that there exists some S in N such that A belongs to IS. But if A is in IS, then XA will be in IS, because this is an ideal, right? So if A is in IS, X times A will be, but then this is contained in I. So that proves that I is a ideal. Okay, unions generally will not be ideals. In fact, you can easily show for finite, not finite unions, but for union of two ideals, say I1 and I2, the union will be an ideal. Anyone knows? If and only if one is contained in the other. Okay, you have these for many other things. For vector subspaces also this is true. Okay, for subgroups also this is true. Anyway, this is quite easy to show. Okay, so this is an interesting property of I have not done. So once you show that the union is an ideal, then what do we know? This is a PID, therefore it should be generated by a single element. Okay, so therefore there exists some, I have used up A, so now I have to take something else. So there exists some C in D such that I can be written as I is generated by C, because we are working in a PID. Now what happens? Anyone can see? We have the union is generated by a single element. So what's going to happen? You see, C is in the union. So C is in one of these ideals, right? Which means that C is an I, which means that there is some K in N such that C is an IK. But if C is an IK, the entire ideal has to be in Ik. Right? This means that I should be contained in Ik, or I should be equal to Ik. Okay, but if I is equal to Ik, okay, let me just write it here itself. This is contained in this, but this is contained in all ions which are greater than or equal to K. Okay, and I is contained in ion is anyway contained in I, so this will tell you that, yeah, this will tell you that this have to be equalities. There's no other way. I mean, I is equal to ion, so therefore ion would be equal to Ik for every n greater than or equal to K. Okay. Think of what this does in Z. What would happen if you have such a sequence in Z? What does it mean? Say you started with an ideal in Z. What is ideal in Z? Multiples of some this thing. What would it mean to say that I2 contains I1? Now I2 is a multiple of n, I1 is multiple of n, that will mean that m is a divisor of n. So that is what takes place in Z. If you have to get this type of containment in Z, successively you're getting divisor of divisor of divisor of divisor, that's not possible, right? That would mean that you have infinitely many divisors of a distinct divisors of if you don't ultimately have a constant this thing, it will mean that you have infinitely many divisors. So that's what this tells you in the case of Z. Non-surprising, it is very obvious. In Z it's very obvious. Okay, now with this we can prove that every PID is a UFD. Okay, so yeah, let me give you the gist of the proof. The proof is on the notes, so I don't want to write down everything, but I will give you the proper idea of it. You can have a look at it from the notes. So there are two parts to this. So every PID is a UFD. So there are two parts to this proof. The strategy which we will follow is like this. First we will show that every non-unit non-zero, okay, this is exactly what we do in Z. We first show that every integer has a prime divisor, okay, and then we show that what do you call that? Every integer can be written as a product of prime divisors. Okay, so for the existence part, that's what we are going to do first. Okay, uniqueness we'll see how to handle it later. So first we will show. So this is the strategy which we are going to use. First we will show that for every non-zero non-unit or every non-zero non-unit in D, so let D be a PID. Okay, if D is a PID, I'm going to show that every non-zero non-unit in D has a prime divisor. Irreducible divisor means exactly the same thing, because I'm showing that every PID is a UFD. In PIDs, primes and irreducibles are the same, so I did not worry about what I say here. So it has a prime divisor. Prime divisor. If you want to write irreducible, it means exactly the same thing. And two, I will then prove the first statement of UFD, that is every non-zero non-unit can be written as product of primes. Okay, So there exist, for every A in D, there exist primes or irreducibles. I'll write irreducibles, P1 up to PR in D, such that A can be written as P1 up to PR. So this will give me the existence. If I prove these two things, it gives me the existence part. The first statement in your definition of UFD. Then I need to prove uniqueness. Uniqueness we'll have a look at later. Okay. In fact, uniqueness is easy to see. Okay, so let's prove this one first. Okay, so the construction is like this. I assume that there is an element which has no prime divisor and get a contradiction. Okay, so suppose A has no prime divisor. I am not writing properly, so don't copy. So if A has no prime divisor, that means, so first of all, A cannot be a prime or an irreducible. I am using the irreducible thing actually. So A is not an irreducible. A has no irreducible divisor, right? So in particular, A is not a irreducible. So therefore, I can write A as a product of two non-units B1 into C1. Okay? These are product of two non-units B1 and C1. Now notice again, B1 is a non-unit. Okay? So therefore, B1 is an irreducible, is not an irreducible. Why? Why is B1 not an irreducible? Because A has no irreducible divisors. Okay, so therefore B1 is not an irreducible. Since B1 is not an irreducible, I can write B1 as product of two non-units B2 into C2. Okay? So notice again that B2 cannot be an irreducible. Why? Because if you take this and substitute it up, it will mean that B2 is an irreducible that divides A, and A has no irreducible divisors. Okay? If B2 is an irreducible, by substituting this up here, it will mean that A has an irreducible divisor. Right? Because this is a divisor of B1 and hence a divisor of A. So therefore B2 is not an irreducible. Since B2 is not an irreducible, I can again break up B2 as a product of B3 into C3, and by the same argument, because B3 divides B2 and B2 divides B1 and B1 divides A, so this will mean that B3 divides A, so A cannot be an irreducible, and I can keep doing this. Okay, I can keep doing this. Now I can look at the ideals generated by each of these. Let's see. So you take I1 to be the ideal generated by B1. In general, you take IN to be the ideal generated by Bn. Okay, look at the properties of these ions. So you can notice here that Bn plus 1 divides Bn, right? Since Bn plus 1 divides Bn, it means that Bn is in the ideal In plus 1, correct? Bn can be written as Bn plus 1 times something. So Bn is in the ideal, right? This is right. Is that okay? Problem? Yeah. So this divides this, means that Bn can be written as some x times Bn plus 1. That means it's here, right? That's the definition. So this is here, which means that In is a subset of In plus 1. But you can also show that it's actually a proper subset. Anyone can tell me an element which is here, which is not here? Which element is here but not here? Yeah? Bn plus 1. Why? Why is Bn plus 1 not here? Any idea? Yeah? How will you show that Bn plus 1 is not here? So, that doesn't mean that Bn plus 1 is not here. What would it mean to say that Bn plus 1 is here? Yeah. So, suppose Bn plus 1 is in In, it would mean that you can write Bn plus 1 as Bn times some, let me call it as U, for some U in D. Okay, now you just check back, you know that Bn is Bn plus 1 times C n plus 1, okay, and you can simply substitute this here, okay, you can simply substitute this here and you get Bn is Bn U Cn plus 1. Cancel out the Bn on both sides, you will get U times Cn plus 1 is 1. What does that tell you about Cn plus 1? Cn plus 1 is a unit, but by construction all these Bi's and Ci's are non-units. Okay, so suppose Bn plus 1 was an In, it would show you that Cn plus 1 is a unit, which is a contradiction. So what have we contradicted? The assumption that A has no irreducible divisor. Okay, so therefore any non-zero non-unit has an irreducible divisor. Okay, so we proved one part of it. The next thing is we need to show that this happens. So say suppose we cannot write A as a product of irreducibles. Okay, so that's the second part. I'm going by contradiction again. Assume that A cannot be written as a product of, I hope everyone has understood why there is a contradiction here, because here In is a proper subset of In plus 1, but this is a infinite sequence of irreducibles. Therefore the sequence is not going to become constant ever. All of them are properly contained, hence the sequence is never becoming constant. But by the lemma we know that any increasing sequence of ideals should be ultimately constant in PIDs. Okay, so to prove the second one, again we are going to use the same idea. Okay, assume that A cannot be written as product of irreducibles. So suppose a non-zero non-unit A in D cannot be written as a product of irreducibles. Okay, cannot be written as a product of irreducibles. Now see, notice here you start with A. Okay, it cannot be written as product of irreducibles, but by the previous proof we know that it has an irreducible divisor. Okay, so since this has an irreducible divisor, you can write A as some P times for an irreducible times C1. Okay, but okay, firstly A is not an irreducible. Okay, A is not an irreducible, that is not even required anyway. C1 will not be, yeah, A is not an irreducible because it cannot be written as a product of irreducibles. If A was an irreducible, it would be this thing on its own. So if C1 was a unit, okay, if C1 was a unit, it would mean that A is a irreducible, which is not true. Okay, so therefore C1 is not a unit. Okay, also C1 is not an irreducible. Why? Because A cannot be written as product of irreducibles, right? If C1 was an irreducible, then you are writing A as product of irreducibles. So you can't do that. So that's, now look at C1. C1 is not an irreducible. Sorry, C1 is not an irreducible and not a unit. Okay, so it's reducible. This also has a prime divisor by the previous this thing, so you can write this as P2 times C2. Okay, again C2 cannot be a unit. Why? Because this is not an irreducible. C2 cannot be a unit because this is not an irreducible. C2 also cannot be an irreducible. Why? Because if C2 was an irreducible, you take this, substitute it up, A can be written as product of irreducibles. Okay, so therefore C2 is again reducible. Okay, then you take C2, you write as P3 times C3. Okay, you write C2 as P3 times C3. Again do the same argument. C3 cannot be a unit because if C3 was a unit, C2 would be an irreducible, but C2 is not an irreducible. We made the argument that C2 is not an irreducible. C3 also cannot be an irreducible because if C3 was an irreducible, you substitute back up and you can write A as a product of irreducibles. Okay, so you can continue to do this. And if you can see, what I am doing is I am attempting at writing A as P1 times P2 times P3 times something. Okay, so the kind of like an infinite expression. Okay, so what we are going to do now is look at, which one should I look at? Yeah, so you take In to be the ideal generated by Cn. Take In to be the ideal generated by Cn. What you will see here is, first of all, In by the same argument over there is contained inside, because Cn plus 1, sorry, Cn plus 1 divides Cn. Okay, since Cn plus 1 divides Cn, In will be contained inside In plus 1. Okay, also Cn plus 1 is here, but Cn plus 1 is not here. Why Cn plus 1 is not here? We can again use the similar argument. If Cn plus 1 was here, okay, what would it mean to say that Cn plus 1 is in In? It will mean that you can write Cn plus 1 as some x times Cn. But we know that Cn can be written as Pn plus 1 times Cn plus 1. So you make the substitution. Where is that? Yeah, put this inside here. What will that tell you? Cancel out Cn on both sides. It will tell you that Pn plus 1 is a unit, but Pn plus 1 is irreducible. That's a contradiction. Okay, so therefore this containment is proper. That gives us a contradiction because we cannot have an infinite sequence of ideals, which an increasing infinite sequence of ideals which is not ultimately constant. Okay, so this gives us a contradiction, and hence we have proved that every non-zero non-unit can be written as product of primes. Okay, okay, are we done? No. What do we have to do? We have to prove uniqueness. Okay, so how do I prove uniqueness? Yeah. So how do I prove uniqueness? So uniqueness is actually something that is inherent with the PID itself quite easily, and even this is, but how to, yeah. So what I need to show, if I can write product of primes in two different ways, say suppose, let's suppose A1 up to AN and B1 up to BM are irreducibles such that A1 up to an is equal to, I can of course make a statement here with no loss of generality that n is less than or equal to m. I need to show that n is equal to m, so I can anyway take the one which is smaller. You'll see why this is useful later. Yeah. Okay, so my idea is like this. The idea is just what you do in integers. You cancel out 1 from both sides, and you can. So you can actually do this by induction. Okay, we can do it by induction on n. We can prove the uniqueness by induction on n. How? Suppose n is equal to 1, then what would happen? Is it possible that m is greater than 1? Why? If n is 1, then on the left hand side you simply have one irreducible a1, which you are writing as a product of irreducibles, which you can write as, if m was greater than or equal to 2, you could write it as b1 times b2 up to bm. But these are not units. The only way you can write an irreducible as a product of something is if one of them is a unit. So that's not possible. Okay. So if n is 1, m should be 1. Yeah, if n is 1, then m should be 1 and a1 will be equal to b1. Okay, so that's the first step of your induction. Now you assume that your assumption statement is important. Assume that if a1 up to ak and b1 up to b, I don't know, t, k less than or equal to t are primes I need not worry about, such that a1 up to ak is equal to b1 up to bt, then we are assuming this, that k and t should be equal. Okay, for the kth stage I am assuming, and 2, by some rearrangement of bi's, the corresponding ones are associates. Okay, that means actually there is a bijection between the two. That's actually what this is saying. ai and bi are associates. Okay, this is what we are assuming. Now we need to prove for the k plus 1th stage. What is the k plus 1th stage? Suppose I have k plus 1 primes. So suppose a1 up to ak, k plus 1, and b1 up to bt are primes such that a1 up to ak plus 1 is equal to b1. I need to make a statement here that k plus 1 is less than or equal to t. Okay, that's what we need to assume. Okay, b1 up to bt. Okay, then what I need to show is that k plus 1 is equal to t, and by some rearrangements ai's are the same as are associates of bi's. Okay, so the idea behind this is just to cancel out one of them. If I can cancel out one of them, then I use the induction hypothesis and I'm done. Okay, so how do I cancel out one? Yeah. Yeah. So see, we know that all irreducibles in PIDs are also primes. Okay, so since ak plus 1 divides this side, ak plus 1 should also divide that side. Okay, since ak plus 1 divides this side and ak plus 1 is an irreducible, therefore ak plus 1 is also a prime. Since ak plus 1 is a prime, what happens? Yeah. So ak plus 1 divides b1 up to bt, okay, and since ak plus 1 is a irreducible, it is a prime because we are in a PID, therefore there will be one I here such that ak plus 1 divides bi. I somehow need to say that a fellow is a, how do I, I need to prove that these two are associates. In PIDs I have not yet done that. So how do I say that they are associates? Yeah, it's clear that they are associates. I'll tell you why. See, what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that BI, okay, this means that BI is contained in AK plus 1, right? BI is contained, of course, this is contained in the entire, this which is a PID, okay. Now we know that in PIDs, integral, what do you call that? Irreducibles generate maximal ideals. We know that in PIDs, irreducibles always generate maximal ideals, which means that these are all maximal, these are both maximal ideals, okay. This is a maximal ideal. So what is the possibility for this? It can either be the entire D, but if it is the entire D, what does that mean about AK plus 1? It's a unit. We know it's not a unit because it's a irreducible. Therefore this has to be this. But now these two ideals, we know that when two ideals, the generators of any two ideals are always associates. So therefore BI and AK plus 1 are associates, okay. So if AK plus 1 divides BI, then BI and AK plus 1 are associates, okay. So this is an associate of this. So therefore you can write your BI, okay, and let's rearrange the BIs. This was a BI, right? Let's make that into a T, push it to the end, okay. So when we can write BT by rearranging, we can write BT as some U times AK plus 1 by rearranging. You have your BI here, right? Because we want to prove this only by rearranging. So rearrange, we put that BI over here, BT becomes U times AK plus 1. Just switch those two, okay. Now what happens? You have this AK plus 1 here, you cancel that out on both sides, you can push that U to one of them, it doesn't make a difference. This U, you push to one of the primes here, and then you will get A1 up to AK equals B1 up to BT minus 1. Put a prime on that because that is simply U times BT minus 1. Push that U to this. It doesn't matter what you push it to. But now what happens? By the induction hypothesis, K is equal to T minus 1 firstly, which means that T is equal to K plus 1. That's what we needed to show, right? K plus 1 is equal. And by rearrangements, all these are associates of these. That's it. So that proves that every PID is a UFD. This is an important part. I think I have missed it out before. So this is an important argument. So we have proved that every PID is a UFD. So I think I'll stop with this today. Yeah. As a corollary to this, it follows that any Fx is a UFD. Okay, Fx will always be a UFD, where F is a field. If F is a field, Fx is a UFD. Why? If F is a field, then Fx is a UFD. Why? Fx is a PID. We have proved that Fx is a PID, right? We proved some nice division algorithm in Fx and showed it's a PID, and every PID is a UFD. So this is important. Don't copy this; you will not understand anything what you've written.